DW Africa Link.
Of 40 years in power, one man, Yoweri Museveni, has defined Uganda's political landscape for nearly 40 years. But as discontent simmers and a new generation demands change, the question echoing across the country is louder than ever. Can a united opposition finally unseat one of Africa's longest-serving leaders? From Kampala's buzzing streets to rural villages where memories of war still linger, political alliances are shifting. Once fragmented and outmaneuvered opposition forces now speak with increasing agency, and some argue unprecedented unity. But is that unity absolute or just another fleeting moment in Uganda's complex political dance? And if it is real, is it enough? That's what's coming up. Stay tuned. My name is Josey Mahachi. Welcome to Africa Link, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter from Africa.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Uganda's opposition is caught between efforts to unify and increasing state repression. While new coalitions offer hope for a stronger challenge to Museveni's long-standing rule, internal divisions and government crackdowns pose serious obstacles. The country has been ruled by the National Resistance Movement NRM and President Yoweri Museveni since 1986. Wow, I was actually just 3 years old. The NRM, a political party that emerged from a 5-year guerrilla war, retains power through patronage, intimidation, and politicized prosecutions of opposition leaders. Uganda's civil society and media sectors face illegal and extra-legal harassment and state violence. With the clock ticking towards the next elections, opposition political parties are in the final stages of a cooperation agreement. Their goal? To form a united front against President Museveni's 4-decade rule. They firmly believe that the key to defeating Museveni lies in unity and aggressive mobilization. Now, joining me for the conversation is Adolph Mbeine, a lecturer at Makerere University and political analyst and DW's correspondent in Kampala, Frank Yiga. I'll start with you, Frank, to just give us a brief overview on what exactly is happening.
Well, what is happening right now, there's a lot going on at the political level, because at a political party level, we're having all parties, of putting together their plans to see how they will go through this campaign season up to the election time. But of course, above all, they know that they have an uphill task of defeating President Yoweri Museveni, whom they have failed to defeat a couple of times. And they realize that they cannot do it as a party individually. So this time around, they think that it is high time that they join forces to see that they all put their heads together to, fight that common opponent. Although it's not the first time they are doing this, they attempted to do it in the previous elections. But of course, things didn't go well because each of these parties and even individuals have different interests and agenda as politicians. So some of them front their personal or individual interests before the party interest. They claim to be fronting the party's agenda, but it is them themselves that they are fronting. So at the end of it all, you find that there are a lot of differences, disagreements. Here it may look good that they have a common agenda to unite. So I believe much as they are trying to achieve this, at the end of it all, it's an uphill task, or even they won't achieve it at all.
Right. Now, coming to you, Adolph Mbeine, you're an analyst. What comes to your mind when you think of Uganda's opposition groups?
Of course, what Frank is saying is completely true. But we also need to analyze the context in which political parties operate in this country. There has been, several challenges, almost insurmountable challenges for political parties those which existed to strengthen those which have come up as new parties to evolve and become strong parties, because the environment under which they operate both legally and for them to develop and cohere into serious political groupings. One is that not allowed to operate. Then in 2005, they were kind of reluctantly freed to operate. And even then, there have been methods used military to ensure that they don't enjoy the full stretch throughout the country that they should enjoy. If, as you know, there is even the Public Order and Management Act enacted in 2013, which limits how much people can organize, even politically. And then, of course, now, if you consider that, political parties' rallies, meetings are often disrupted, now with the added measures like the abduction and the incarceration of opposition political party supporters, detained for long without trial, really, and so on and so forth. Then you understand the context in which political parties operate. But secondly, I don't know, even if political parties grouped themselves under one umbrella to challenge President Museveni, I don't think that the environment in which the elections are themselves held are conducive for that kind of organization and even victory, because what we know is that, first of all, there are concerns around the conduct and capacity of the Electoral Commission. Increasingly, we are seeing certain other forces, state forces, take over electoral processes. We are not even sure that the Electoral Commission is really in charge of elections in the manner that it should under the Constitution.
And also from what you're saying, and Frank here, that it's not even the first time this has happened, but can you at least see the opposition groups set aside their differences and unite in time for this crucial 2027 election, Adolph?
Political parties, so to say, have their own weaknesses because they have not been allowed to grow and so hopefully outgrow some of their idiosyncrasies, and excitement around elections and so on, and first to grow into serious entities that take what they are doing a lot more seriously. If you look at nearly every political party except those who were born, which were born yesterday, like Dr. Besigye's party, but if you look at the earlier party, all the parties, UPC has got factions. Somebody leads faction A, somebody leads faction B. DP is the same. There is a faction which has gone with its president general into a marriage with the ruling party. There is also another faction which is opposed to this. And all these factions problems came to the surface during their recently concluded elections recently. National Unity Platform, which is actually leading the opposition in parliament, also has had a schism. One of its former vice presidents and former leader of the opposition in parliament left and formed another party. Now I think it is called Democratic Front. FDC gave birth to a new political party now called People's Front for Freedom, allied to Dr. Kizza Besigye. So political parties have got they have got very, very serious internal problems. Some of them could be attributed to the weaknesses of the party, the weaknesses of the leadership, and the problems associated with working in the kind of environment, political environment that we are talking about. So quite clearly, the political parties are weak in terms of structures, in terms of even their backbone as political parties. But that, having said that, I think I would put the blame more on the context in which the political parties operate, more than the structural weaknesses that are associated with the political parties at this moment in time.
All right. Let's now move to the journalists. Frank, just to also find out how have different media houses covered this issue. You know, before we started this conversation, my producer actually alerted me to the fact that debates involving opposition figures in Uganda on different media platforms don't end well. Why?
That is true, Jose. Actually, if you're to see what's happening on ground, you confirm that the producer's statement makes him as if he were on ground here in Uganda. It's hectic, costly, and combatant to defend corruption tendencies, gross human rights violation, and all that. So when these opposition political parties or members come to different media, TV, radio, and social media platforms, these are what they stand against. And it comes at a cost. And you will realize that here we call it an invisible hand that operates within these political parties that is usually financial. So they're usually analysts and politicians who will die to stand for what the state stands for, defending the system, whether there's corruption or not. So those politicians on the opposition side will definitely have to fight against all these. So in the end, you find that talk shows, radio shows, and all these other media programs become chaotic to a point that some are cut short. Others even go for a break to put the studios to order until they come back and, to put things right.
Right. Now, Adolph, according to media reports and social media, opposition groups also lack internal democracy. You also said it here, especially within the current leading opposition group of Bobi Wine's National Unity Platform. What can you tell us more about that? Because it looks like even when you see on Twitter, on X, on Facebook, it's like people have lost hope in the opposition, even in Bobi Wine's party.
That is true, because political parties in the country have not been given the opportunity to grow. Because when you congregate several people with different tendencies into one grouping, there is always the possibility, a high possibility actually, so to say, of differing and clashing tendencies. And so this is normally addressed when people have been given the opportunity to live these experiences and establish mechanisms that are able to handle the contradictions when they arise. But you see, if you are running scared, your leaders are hunted, your supporters are being arrested, abducted during broad daylight and taken to dungeons and not given even the opportunity to before the due process of the law and so on. You are handling so many things. And you see, eventually, the people in power even enticing your own people to join them or to create, enticing them to create more trouble. So in the process then, you find that the political groupings are weaker. Once the overall environment has challenges, then quite obviously you can't grow strong political parties in that kind of environment. It is as simple as saying, if you have weak soils, then you can't grow strong crops. Yeah. So I think people who would really like to reform the political system must begin looking at both at this whole gamut of factors that you need to have a strong political system, a conducive legal framework, a liberal space overall, where people have a free choice, where institutions of state that provide the guardrails for democratic participation to happen are strong, first of all, exist, are strong, and are sustainable.
All right. Now, Frank, as we wrap up our discussion, I don't know if you want to add anything there on how challenging it is for the media to cover opposition members, to articulate their agenda of removing President Museveni from power, because the public or electorate rather says opposition leaders usually use media platforms to push their own agenda of joining parliament and earn big salaries. I don't know if you want to comment on that and maybe add to what Adolph has already said.
Okay, first, let me add to what Adolph has said. He can agree with me that sometimes, some years back, President Museveni said that by this time, there will be no opposition. And it's what we're seeing. Instead of fighting the common opponent, now they have situations to put right within their parties. So it is what we're seeing now. Now, back to what you asked me, Josey. Yes, that's partly true that politicians, and especially those on the opposition political parties, and even those in the NRM, use money, to appear to media outlets. Not only the media, but politics has been commercialized in Uganda to a point that to appear, you have to pay money on a radio station. Even before a radio station or TV station, it is because even in their parties, to stand for a position, you have to subscribe. There's a fee you have to stand. Besides National Unity Platform, for NRM, there's lots of money. Some people have pulled out because the stakes are too high, the money you have to pay. So the whole chain is commercialized. The voters themselves as well also ask for money. You don't give them money, you don't bribe them, don't give you your vote. The parties also ask for money. The media house has also joined the fray. The media houses have joined the fray that to appear on the radio station or TV station, you have to pay, because they believe that politics has become commercialized. It has become a full-time job where people are fighting for, not to serve the communities or the nation, but to satisfy their personal interests. So that's at least what is on ground now in Uganda.
Okay, wow, well said. But Adolph, we can't also wrap up without hearing from you. I mean, obviously, it's clear the ruling party from both of you seem to be suppressing the opposition. But the ruling party also has been in power for almost 4 decades now. They've accused opposition groups of sowing seeds of divisionism, tribalism, and hate. Yeah, and these are some of the things they're using for the public, because I don't think anybody in Uganda would want this whole tribalism agenda to be pushed. But the United Nations and several rights organizations have also expressed concern about repression against opposition groups ahead of this particular election. Does Museveni care about such concerns, Adolph, as your parting words?
Well, yeah, it should worry everyone, that because you see, political parties, the political system, ideally should be a seedbed for nurturing leaders, both current and for the future. And once this space is abridged, once this space no longer exists, even within the ruling party, by the way, I don't think that there is such freedom for leaders, especially for the higher offices, to manifest themselves, to become available. Yes. Now back to just having said that, let me go back to your question of the international community. Yes, the international community obviously is important in the way it views things here. It can take measures. Or its statements about the situation obviously add some weight to what is going on. But the political permutations around the world have changed, especially since Donald Trump became president of the United States, and there is no concern, because when the Americans are not saying much about what is going on in terms of democracy, human rights violations, and so on, electoral processes across the world, then you have lost a very, very critical voice. And besides, of course, the international community will only go to a certain extent in helping a local situation improve, because our rulers on this part of the continent know that the real business is done locally. It's not the international community can only pressure people up to a certain extent, especially if the rulers here know how to play their international game in terms of the geopolitics that exists. So yes, international voices are important. You'll never get here, of course, any significant African voices regarding good governance, human rights of violations, and so forth, because literally most of Africa is this way, is run this way. You have elections that don't matter, that are not credible, and so forth and so on, and then military personnel harassing people if they belong to the opposition and so on. This is a real, recurrent African story. But the danger really is that if you don't create a system, and particularly for Uganda, a country which has never had a peaceful transfer of power from one person to another for over 60 years since independence. And you have not, even during 40 years of one particular leader, you have not had mechanisms that are visible, that guarantee that there will be a peaceful transfer of power from one person to another. Then you have very, very serious reasons to worry, because whatever you do, whatever development you have created, whatever buildings or infrastructure you have undertaken, and so whatever you have done, if the politics of the country are not well sorted, if the feeling is still in the country that whoever has the physical muscle takes power, and so on, and that there is really no place for free, fair, peaceful, and credible elections in which people have the opportunity to change their leaders, or to confirm whoever is in power, then quite obviously, as a country, then you have no future.
Thank you so much, Adolph Mbeine and Frank Yiga, correspondent. Thank you. At the Africa Link podcast, we always look across the continent to see how the stories we're dealing with play out, or at times even overlap. Let's cast our net to Ghana, which is considered a beacon of democracy in Africa. As of 2025, opposition parties in Ghana operate within a relatively free and democratic environment, though they face structural and political challenges that affect their effectiveness and public trust. Ghana is rated in courts free by Freedom House, with a strong record of competitive multi-party elections and peace. The National Democratic Congress NDC and the New Patriotic Party NPP. Citizens have the right to form political parties, and this is generally respected. Opposition parties have realistic opportunities to gain power. For example, the NDC has alternated in power with the NPP since the return to democracy in 1992. So the parting shot for today's podcast is, while it will take time for Uganda to achieve political maturity just as Ghana has, there is great potential for change and progress in the future. That's it for this edition of Africa Link. Remember, you are not just a listener, but a crucial part of our community, and your engagement can shape the direction of our discussions. We value your insights and encourage you to share your thoughts with us. Remember, you can find all of the Africa Link podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts from. This episode was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabi. My name is Josey Mahachi. Thanks for listening. Until the next one, it's bye for now.
DW